What I enjoy most about living on a canal boat is that I am surrounded by nature, 360. I'm on the water, I look out the window, I see trees, I see sky, I hear birds, ducks, swans, and I just love that deep connection to nature. It's really important to me that my life is filled and surrounded by nature, and boat life gives me that. My name's Jen. I'm a holistic and somatic coach, and I've lived on my boat for 5 years. My boat's moored in Tring, which is in Hertfordshire, which is about 30 miles from central London. It's a 65-foot wide-beam canal boat, and it's 5 years, 1 week old, and her name is Shakti. So when I enter the mooring, the garden mooring, it just feels like I'm coming back to my safe place, to my sanctuary, to my little patch on this earth. And it just feels safe and nurturing and comforting when I return home. So from the garden, the entryway onto the boat is to step onto the stern, which is the back deck, and that's where I steer the boat from. It's also where the engine is, so the floor lifts up, and that's how I access the engine. Also on the stern there's a gas locker, which is where I store my gas bottles, and the gas is what powers the oven and the hob. So from the stern you step down into the boat, into the galley, and the first area in the galley is the kitchen. It's a standard IKEA kitchen. I didn't have to have it specially built because I'm in a small space. I managed to get standard cupboards, and it's important to me that the kitchen's spacious because I love cooking from scratch, and I have all my spices and ingredients on display just because I am cooking a lot for me and the children, but I also cater for retreats, so I have space in the boat to cater for large events. And yeah, just got a standard sized sink. Like, you don't have to go without when you've got a small space. So overall, although I live in a small space, I've got a nice workable kitchen. So the dining area is a part of the galley. There is no separation between the kitchen and the dining area. It's obviously where we eat, but because I live in a small space, I don't have a desk to work at, so when we're not eating at the table, I clear it, and that's where I do my admin. So the living area is a very versatile space. It's where me and the children relax of an evening. We don't have a telly, so we tend to sit here and all read. It's also the area that I run my business, so I put my massage couch up here in the middle of the living room, and that's where I do my holistic therapies. And then every full moon, my friends come round and we all gather on the floor and have a full moon ritual here as well. So my daughter's bedroom has actually just been decorated. So the children's bedrooms were identical when I built the boat, or when I designed the boat. They had cabin beds built into the walls, but she wanted a more grown-up bedroom, so she's just had it. I just dismantled the bed that was built, and she has like a standard single bed in there now, in a lovely bright purple colour, as per her request. The children's bedrooms are 5 foot by 9 foot, so I had to maximise the space in their rooms. And the next bedroom is my son's bedroom, which is as it was 5 years ago when I built the boat, because he's not fussed about what his bedroom looks like compared to his sister, so he's still got the bed that was built at the point of the boat being fitted out, and mirrors Freya's room, so he's also got a wardrobe and lots of storage space as well, and lots of space to create his fingerboard ramps, which is what he's into at the moment. So the bathroom is actually one of my favourite rooms in the boat. I just love the quirkiness of it and all the different colours that are in there, because there's not much colour in the rest of the boat. It's got a double-sized rainforest head shower, compost toilet, and a tiny sink. And I bought the sink before I knew how spacious the boat would be. So I bought this tiny little sink off eBay, and I could have gone with a much bigger sink, but I'll always remember the vision that I had of living in a small space when I bought this little cube of a sink. So right at the front of the boat, the bow, is my bedroom, or the main cabin, and it's got a bed and 2 wardrobes, and it's just so cozy. I love going in there in the evening and reading by candlelight, and then waking in the morning and pushing the doors open at the front and drinking tea and just listening to nature and having like nature literally on my doorstep whilst in bed. That's my favourite part about my bedroom. So once I step through the doors at the front of the boat and onto the bow deck, that's how I access the water inlet point. So I cross over the deck to be able to put the hose into the inlet that fills the tank that's under the bow. Also under the floor of the decking of the bow is a bow thruster, which is a tube that shoots water left and right. So I control that from the stern as to which direction I want the front of the boat to be in when I'm moving. In hindsight, I wouldn't have had a bow deck because I don't use it. I thought I was going to be sat out there drinking tea, but in reality, it's easier to step out the back door than to walk all the way through the boat. So you can get what's called an enclosed bow. So I would have gained an extra 5 foot of interior space that would have been more usable than an empty bow deck. And that's the bow. So it was out of necessity that we ended up living on a boat. I had equity from 2 house renovations, but I was self-employed, so I wasn't able to get a mortgage. So I literally had the money that I had and no more to get a home. I considered renting for 5 years, but then at this point I would have no money left. So then I looked at what can I buy for the money that I had. And what was in my scope was like a static caravan. And that's what I decided on. And then one day I went on a walk and saw these big double width boats and thought, well, that's the same size as the static caravan that I'm considering, but I can move that one. So it was more of an adventure to have a home that was transient. So I started watching YouTube videos about boat life and learning whether I could do this lifestyle. And I decided, yeah, I can do that. I started looking at what boats are available, and I needed 3 bedrooms because I have 2 children. But 3 bedroom wide beams just didn't seem to exist, or there weren't any up for sale. So then my path led towards appointing a boat builder, and then I designed a floor plan of my ideal boat, which meant that when they built it, all the portholes and windows were in the right places for where the bedroom walls needed to be. So I ordered the boat during lockdown and no one was making decisions at that point. So the build process was really quick. So the boat builders did the steel work, the plumbing and the electrics, and the boat was delivered in 7 weeks. But when it was delivered, it was an empty shell. It didn't have any interior walls or a kitchen or a bathroom. So the following 7 weeks, with a lot of help, I fit the kitchen and the bathroom and the walls and did the decorating, and then we moved in. So when it comes to the cost of the boat, from the 2 houses that I had renovated, I had £97,000. So I couldn't afford to have the boat fit out, ready for us to move into, which is why I had it delivered half built. So the boat cost with the engine and the hull was £87,000, and then I had £10,000 to do the interior, including the flooring and walls and kitchen and bathroom. But within a week of it being delivered, the equity had increased by 25% because steel and wood prices rose because of the pandemic. So within a week of having the boat, I'd already made money on it. How do I power the boat? So to move the boat, it's powered by a 60 horsepower diesel engine, But in terms of powering the appliances inside the boat, it's electricity, which comes from lead-acid batteries in the engine bay, which are charged by solar panels. So from about April to October, my electricity is free from the sun. And then in the months when there's less sun, I run the engine, which then charges the batteries. And that's how I power the appliances. But all I've got is a fridge. And then we charge our phones and laptops, so we don't demand that much electricity. And then the oven is powered by gas bottles. So the main heat source is the fire. That is like the heart of the home. It's where we all huddle in the winter. I do have radiators, and they're powered by a diesel Webasto heater, which is also in the engine bay. But the radiators aren't that efficient, so yeah, without the fire we would really struggle. So now that I've got a permanent mooring, I don't move the boat as often as I would like to, just because it's such a big, heavy boat to take out. It's not like a day trip boat. But prior to having a mooring, we did move the boat every 2 weeks as per the agreement of our licence. You don't need a driving licence to steer a boat. I did choose to do a helmsman's course, which is a boat steering course, before I did. But yeah, you don't have to have a licence. Now this is a question that I thought I was going to struggle on the most, because I don't feel attached to any things. So I think my favourite item would be the fire, because it provides the most warmth for us. It's like a survival thing, so that would be my favourite item. However, I do really love this piece of furniture. I believe it was built in India, and I just love, all of my furniture is secondhand. I just think everything was built better and differently back then. And I like to be mindful of my environmental impact, and if I can save the planet from any waste, then I will do by buying secondhand. I would say my favourite spot is where I am right now. This is where I spend most of my time, mainly in the winter because it's right next to the fire, so I can keep my feet warm. But yeah, I just love being cosy, so most of the time I'm sat here in this spot, my spot, on the sofa. Being deep in nature, being connected to the seasons. Like, there's no escaping the seasons when you live on a boat. You definitely know when it's winter, and you're living with nature when you live on a boat. And I think living seasonally for humans is really important, and being on a boat makes me live in a line with the seasons, and just having natural colours, natural light, natural sounds, that makes me happy.
Could you tell us something surprising about yourself?
So ordinarily, my answer to what is interesting or surprising about me is that I live on a boat. But that doesn't seem relevant to say here, and I can't think of anything else. So what is interesting about me is that I live on a boat.